Hi guys, so today's our next lesson on research methods, so lesson 3, and we are looking at our second research methods, which is field experiments. Okay, so I'm just going to explain this to you. If I could get you to draw a Venn diagram like this with field experiments on one side and lab experiments on the other, because there are some similarities and there are some differences. So if I run through these and then you can fill out the Venn diagram however you want. So, well, not however you want, sorry, in the correct way. So the similarity between lab experiments and field experiments is both are trying to isolate out an independent variable that they're trying to study. So if you remember in the Milgram study, they were trying to isolate out how authority had an impact on an individual. The field experiment wants to do that as well. However, the thing that makes them different is whilst a lab experiment is done in an artificial situation that is completely created by the sociologist, the field experiment is done in the natural environment, but it is still controlled. So what we would do if we were at school right now is we would take a natural environment, which would be the corridor outside our classroom, but we're not interested in just observing people's behaviour in that corridor. We want to change something to see how people react. So what we would normally do, and what we'll probably do when you guys come back just to see how it works, is we put a fake poo in the corridor and we study how people in the corridor respond to that. Last year, Mr. Smith brought it back in for me, which was a bit embarrassing, but we'll carry on doing it and see what happens next time. So lab experiment done in an artificial situation, field experiment done in a natural environment, but it's really important to remember you do alter something. Okay, so what I'm going to get you to do is watch an actual field experiment, and what you can see here is that they have done a study on Tinder dates, but they wanted to work out the isolated out an independent variable. They wanted to see how people respond if the woman was much more overweight in real life than how she appeared in her photo. So in the notes just below, because some of you are struggling, I'll show you again. So it's this bit, if you can see, it's this bit just here. Lift it up a little bit. In the notes, you can see just here, there's the hyperlink. Click on that, and that will just watch that, and we'll be referring to that throughout this lesson. So before we go into any specific paragraphs, we just want to get the general understanding. So if I could get you please to answer these 3 questions. So you can write your own hypothesis for the study, and it's just reminding us that what field experiments and lab experiments are trying to do is isolate out just one thing. They're only wanting to study one thing. And remember, a hypothesis is a prediction of what's going to happen. So you might want to do that. You might want to watch the first start bit, and before you watch any more, predict what you're going to think is going to happen, and that can be your hypothesis. Then note then what the independent variable is in this case, and the dependent variable. So remember, the independent variable is the thing you're changing, the dependent variable is the thing that reacts to that independent variable. And if I could just get you to note down why this might be considered better than just kind of generally observing lots and lots of Tinder dates, just one reason why. Okay, so hopefully you've watched the clip and paused it and answered all these questions. So we're going to go through and start looking at our paragraphs. Okay, now practical issues. You can see in the video it requires staff. So in this case, you had the people filming, you had the actress. Don't forget, you're going to have to put time into testing that and training that member of staff, and people aren't going to do it for free. You're going to have to pay for them. You will need direct contact with the group, so you needed to kind of lure these men in to be studied, and you need to manipulate the independent variables. So in this case, we couldn't just have the woman coming up how she looked. You needed to change her a little bit. So if I could get you guys to explain why each of those, you can use the study as you want, or talk about it more general, explain why each of those would make the research hard. Okay. Right, now with oh, sorry, before we go on to that, we want an evaluation point. So it is quite complex, but our evaluation point is the same as when we do practical issues with lab experiments. Although it's hard to do, it does allow you to isolate out the independent variable you are studying. So if you just observe loads of people on Tinder dates, you'd be very lucky to find someone who looks a lot more overweight than they did in their Tinder photo. So this has allowed you to manipulate that and study exactly what you want to study. So if I could get you to put that in your own words as your evaluation point. Okay, right, then we have ethical issues. So what I've done, because reading through your notes that I've seen, people are quite good with the whole ethical issue. So I've given you a more slightly independent task there, where you've got a paragraph and you need to, where the dots are, you need to expand on the point by explaining why. If any of you are stuck on that, just let me know and I'll go through it with you. So if you pause this clip and have a go at that task, you can copy it out or you can edit it on Microsoft. Riff Raff's here to help. Thank you, little lady. Oh, you gave them a nice shot of your bum, didn't you? Okay, so we can see then from this that it is very unethical because people don't even know they're involved in an experiment, so they can't give informed consent. But for your evaluation, it's the same as lab experiments. You can offer this people debriefing. We saw it a little bit with this guy where they explained it was in a study. Also, the people's identity was protected, so no further harm would come to them. So their face was covered. So you can do things to protect people's harm afterwards, which is your evaluation point. Okay. Right, next, theoretical issues then. So here we are looking at validity, reliability and representativity. So it's done in a natural setting. So these people are going to be acting a little bit more natural than if you pull them into an artificial situation, especially since they don't know they're being observed at all. So although we deceive people in the Milgram study, they knew they were being watched and that might have altered their behaviour. So if I could just get you to note down how that's going to, the two reasons that's going to make someone, make the results more valid. However, it's still not going to be completely valid, and it's important you note this down. It's still not going to be completely valid because you've manipulated the situation. So it's not how someone would act on an everyday Tinder date. It's still not completely valid. Okay, so with the field experiments, they are quite reliable because you can repeat the general overall study. So you could put that woman or another woman in a fat suit later on. You could repeat all those aspects of the study. But you have slightly less control because it's in a natural setting. So it's just things like you can't control the temperature, you can't control the noise levels, things like that that might have an impact on how people act. And finally, like the other one, it's not going to be representative like lab experiments because if you see how long it took just to study these small amount of people, you're not going to be able to do that on a large scale. So if I could get you to answer those 3 points on the theoretical issues, and then you've got your 3 paragraphs for field experiments. Just quickly, for your evaluation point, all you need to remember is, again, like lab experiments, the results from this are going to come out and say, when you alter the physical appearance of a woman on a Tinder date, people are going to respond negatively. That's going to be the results of finding. You've identified your cause and effect. Obviously, those results assume people have no free will to choose how they want to react. So if I could get you to put that down as your evaluation point. Right, final task is an A* task. It is hard. Only do it if you're aiming for an A*. Do not worry if you're not aiming for an A*. Now, this is about writing a conclusion, and in your conclusion you would likely want to compare 2 different research methods. So it's about doing that. If you want to have a go at this, if you're aiming for an A* and you are struggling, please email me and let me know and I will go through it with you. If not, good luck guys, and I hope you enjoy this lesson today, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.